All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Damian Rosario, and I am a global standards specialist. I'm also a part of the standards department at GS1 US. My role focuses on helping organizations such as you all implement GS1 standards and related to product identification, barcodes, data sharing, traceability. And I also support industry initiatives such as the coming up Sunrise 2027 and work with companies to address standards challenges, improve interoperability. Today I'm excited to spend some time with you all today discussing G10 management and some of the foundational concepts behind GS1 standards. So hopefully these basic tips on the slideshow can help all of the startup brands out there who might have a big opportunity coming up, perhaps with a major retailer, or just want to prepare to attract some new distributors or retail partners. So without further ado, let's get into this. Now, because GS1 US is not a non-for-profit organization, we're required to show these next two slides just to let you know that we fully comply with all antitrust laws. We have a policy available online for those who might be curious as well. And this is just a disclosure just to let you know that this information is intended to be purely educational and you're all free to make your own business decisions. So before we get into barcodes, let me tell you quickly about who we are, because a lot of people scan barcodes every day and have never heard of our name. I work for GS1 US, and we are one of 116 GS1 organizations around the world. That word matters, not for profit, because we're not trying to sell you a product, and we don't take sides. We work with brands, retailers, distributors, hospital systems, marketplaces, you name it. So fun fact, companies that usually compete with each other will actually sit at the same GS1 table and agree on a common way of doing something because it makes life better for the shopper or the patient at the end of the line. And our standards are user-driven and user-governed. The guidelines and standards are built for our members and by our members. So whether you're shipping 10 units a month or 10 million, you've all got a seat on the table. So here's how we're going to spend our time together today. And if you remember anything, I want you to remember these three works, identify, capture, and share. And this will serve as the framework of our standards. And everything we talk about today hangs off of one of them. So identify would be the number. That's your UPC, your GTIN, your GLN. And if you're identifying a location, such as a warehouse or a store. Capture would be how a machine actually reads that number, and that would be the barcode itself. So the classic UPC you see at checkout, or the new QR code, or even an RFID tag. Then shares how you get that information over to your trading partners. And there's a few roads to that, GDSN, EDI, EPCIS, but today we'll mostly just touch on EDI. That's electronic data interchange, since that's the one you'll most likely bump into first. And yes, that's a lot of acronyms in one breath, but don't write them all down because I'm going to unpack each of these as we go. So why are GS1 standards needed? We call our numbers in our data format standards, and people ask me all the time, what does that actually mean? So I'm going to show you rather than just define it. Think about all the ways a single product can be described. You probably have your own internal SKU. If you sell on Amazon, that product also has an ASIN, or each retailer you sell to may have their own item number for it. Same product, 4 or 5 different names. And that's what this picture is supposed to signify. Anyone who's traveled internationally knows this feeling, like you show up with your charger and the plug doesn't fit the outlet in the wall. Nothing's broken. The two systems just aren't designed to communicate with each other. So imagine each of those outlets is a different retailer's requirement. And you are the brand in the middle. You're trying to handle checkout, invoices, inventory in 4 different languages at once. And that's really hard for a big company to do with a whole team. So when you're a small business wearing 6 different hats, it can definitely be brutal very fast. A GS1 standard is the universal adapter. That's what you can think of it as. You learn it once, and then it works everywhere, across retailers, across marketplaces, borders. And that's the whole idea in one sentence. So let's start with the first piece, and that would be the number itself. Back to identify. Your supply chain starts with a number, and that's really the headline here. Before your product can move anywhere, it needs that unique identity, something that means this exact item and nothing else, no matter who is handling it. And we call these GS1 identification keys. They don't just cover products. There are keys for logistics units, such as a pallet, for locations like your warehouse or a specific store, for assets as well, such as reusable crates, and even for relationships. So if you could just take a look at the graphic on the slide, it shows you a product it leaves you, the manufacturer, and goes to a distributor, perhaps a 3PL, perhaps a distribution center, and then onto a store shelf or into a delivery van. And every single one of these stops is a moment where somebody scans it and then asks, what is this? And where does it go? The identification key is what answers the question the same way every time. So then now you may ask, where does that number even come from? Well, that's the company prefix. And this is the practical part. So this is actually how you get your numbers. And there's two ways to go. So if you just got one or two products and no plans to expand soon, you can license a single barcode for $30 each. Simple, done. But once you're about 5 products and variations in, most people go with a GS1 company prefix instead. And a prefix is your own block of numbers. Instead of coming back to us every time you launch something, you create and assign the GTINs yourself whenever you need them. Now, prefixes come in capacity tiers. 10 GTINs start at $250 with an annual renewal fee. And then there's tiers for 100 GTINs, 1,000, 10,000, and even 100,000. So you pick on based where you're headed, not just where you are today. And I'm going to touch more on this later on as well. So here's the piece that people don't expect. Your prefix is unique to you. Now, remember, if you can remember what we said about unique identification, every barcode you create carries your prefix inside of it. So your trading partners can look at that number and see exactly that it traces back to your company. And what that does is give you credibility. It says you're real, you're a licensed brand, and not just someone who pulled a number off the internet. It keeps your own inventory organized under one consistent system. It's also a building block. It's not just a barcode bundle. That same prefix lets you identify locations, cases, pallets, and more as you grow. Now, you might think here, like perhaps an alternative to this would be, can I just buy a cheap barcode online? Technically, that's possible with third-party websites, but the issue that we run into here is GTIN reuse. So GTINs cannot be reused, and many retailers would not accept your GTINs if they are reused as well. So it's just something to keep in mind. So is a GTIN the same as a UPC? You'll hear retail partners use those two words like they're interchangeable, but they're not interchangeable. If you could take a look again at the graphic here, GTIN is that global trade item number, right? It's the identity of your product. While the UPC, the universal product code, is the symbol. It's the black lines and spaces you see here. It's the thing the scanner actually reads. We call that a data carrier. So the GTIN is what your product is. The UPC is one way of carrying that product around so a machine can read it. And the number rides inside of that barcode. And the UPC isn't the only ride. That same GTIN can be encoded into a QR code, an RFID tag, and it can also stand completely on its own. When you're listing on an online marketplace, they'll often ask you to type the GTIN into a field, and no barcode image needed at all. So before we get any further, I'm just gonna pause for a second, see if there was any questions. Questions in the chat, no problem. Can move on. Sure.
If I have a UPC code and barcode, now how can I check it to see if it's still valid or if it's usable?
That's a great question. And we're going to get into that too. There's a internal system that we use called Data Hub, and there you can use to verify GTINs and GLNs and any one of your identifiers, as well as GLNs too. But we'll get more into that. No worries.
Damian, there
So,
is one question in the chat,
sure.
and that question is, let's see here. It says, does the UPC come with the G10?
I see what you're saying. So the GTIN is what you license with your prefix, and it kind of, I see where you're getting this from, right? Does the UPC come with the GTIN? They're not really interchangeable. The GTIN is the data encoded inside of the UPC. So you would get your UPC from the GTIN, if that makes sense. We'll also get more into this as well. So you license that GTIN and it's encoded into the UPC. Now, a big question that goes into all of this is how many GTINs would you really need? I see that we have a t-shirt example here, but it's interchangeable for any products. So as I go through the t-shirt example, think of it as perhaps a hot sauce or a chocolate bar. It applies the same way to every product. So like I said, the next question I usually get is how many of these do I really need? Now the rule is simpler than people expect. You assign a GTIN at the lowest level of variation. Now every version a customer could choose from, perhaps it needs its own number. So that would be every size, every color, every flavor, fragrance, and we're gonna walk through it together because the math it gets away from people pretty fast. So let's say you've got one t-shirt. It comes in 3 sizes: small, medium, and large, as well as 3 different colors: blue, pink, and purple. And that would be 9 variations, so 9 different GTINs. And that still feels manageable. Now let's say the t-shirt comes in 3 different styles, then 9 quickly becomes 27. And then now you also sell it in 3 different pack configurations, and then 27 becomes 81. So that's why we tell people to think about capacity before they pick a prefix tier, not because we want to upsell you, but because it's a headache to outgrow your numbers in the middle of a retailer onboarding. So this graphic also lives on our website, and we've also got a tool that does this math for you, which I will get into on the next slide. So that tool is called the Barcode Estimator. It's free. The link is right here on the slide. It's also a guided walkthrough. It asks about your business and your industry. It helps you link through all your product variations so you don't miss any of them. And that's exactly what where people can trip up here. If you're in food, it'll also flag things you should know about safety regulations. That's often the first time a brand hears about requirements that apply to them. This will help you a lot with FSMA 204 rule, the Food Safety Modernization Act. When you're done, you can also download the results and hand them to somebody else on your team or your co-founder or whoever signs off on spending. It'll also show you what prefix capacity actually makes sense for you and what comes with GS1 US membership. So we talked about identify. Now we're going to be talking about capture and those GS1 data carriers. So here's the thing most people don't realize, that the UPC is just the beginning. And there's a whole family of data carriers, and they exist because different situations need different amounts of information. The UPC at checkout only needs to say, this is the product, this is this product, but a carton moving through a warehouse might need to carry an expiration date or a batch or lot number. So think of it like this: different job, different carrier. To that earlier question, the UPC is just the carrier, while the GTIN is encoded into the UPC. It's the same concept here. Each one of these are different data carriers of that information. So if you're in fresh food, there's a good chance a retailer will ask you for a GS1 data bar at some point. It's designed for smaller items and variable weight products. We've got separate guidance on our site just for that one alone. You don't need to master all of these today. Just know that they exist. So when a retailer sends you an email asking for something that you've never heard of, you know it's a normal quest and where to look. So the EAN, real quick, I want to touch on this. The EAN and UPC are interchangeable. The EAN just stands for the European Article Number, UPC, Universal Product Code, and they work interchangeable. What I mean is that the UPC would work in Europe and the Europe would work in North America as well. It's been that way since 2005. So let's actually put some names to them. Here's a quick tour of the barcodes you'll most likely run into. Again, the EAN and the UPC are here. Now, in the middle row, you'll see the logistics units, and these go on cartons and shipping packaging rather than the individual item. Next time something gets delivered to your house, you can take a look at the box and you'll see a barcode with a thick border around it. That would be an ITF 14. And the other one here is the GS1 28, and this is one to know because retailers like Walmart may ask you for it once you're actually in a relationship with them. Now, what makes it useful is that it carries more than just a product number. It can carry expiration dates and batch numbers. So if you're in food, that's how a retailer keeps fresh product on the shelf and pulls the right units if something ever goes wrong. If you have been paying attention to the news, there's been a certain produce situation. So these identifiers and data carriers help combat those recalls. In the bottom row, you'll see two-dimensional barcodes. The one everybody recognizes is the QR code, and these hold an enormous amount of data compared to a traditional barcode. And this is where things are genuinely heading right now. GS1 is leading a migration, and you'll hear about it. It's called Sunrise 2027, and it's toward QR codes on product packaging that work at checkout, as well as carry consumer information at the same time. And you might ask why. And that's because shoppers are asking questions the old barcode can't answer. The UPC is limited in the amount of data that it can hold. It was intended originally just for price lookup at checkout. But with the 2D barcodes, what it does is unlock so much more potential for data. It answers questions such as, what's inside of the product? What is it sustainable? Was it made ethically? A QR code on your pack can answer all of that and still ring up at the register. So if you're designing packaging right now, this is worth having on your radar. I want to see if anyone had any questions about that specifically. If anything, I can touch back on Sunrise later on as well.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
So let me just for units, like a bar needs its own barcode. If it's in a box of 12, then that box of 12 is going to need a barcode. And then if the manufacturer, they're going to ship me cartons, like a big case, they're going to ask for another specific barcode, correct?
Yes, so there's a barcode for each level of packaging, from the
Right.
each, inner case, the case itself, and even pallets.
Okay, just to clarify. Thank you.
So, no problem. Okay. No more questions. We'll move on. So, okay, so we've gotten through identify, we've gotten through capture. So now we're going to touch on share. Now, everything we've built so far is the unique number, the barcode that carries it. It only pays off, right, if the information can actually move. So that's what interoperability means in practice. You're going to hear GS1 say interoperability all the time. It means your data flows to your partners without anybody retyping it. Minimizing errors, causing less friction. And there's several different kinds of share standards. But the one you'll most certainly meet at first is EDI, which is that electronic data interchange. Now, in plain terms, EDI is how you send large amounts of product data and order information to several retailers all at once. And it puts it in a format that their systems already understand. Purchase orders, invoices, shipping notices, all of that traffic. Now, the reason this matters to a small business is time. Without it, you're filing in a different spreadsheet template for every partner, perhaps by hand every time something changes. And with it, you can maintain your data one time. Now, how do you actually set all of this up? Now, I'm going to show you. It's a cool tool. Now, the practical answer is, okay, right? How do I actually do this? You license a company prefix, or when you license a company prefix, or even a single GTIN, you'll get free access to GS1 US Data Hub. It's included with membership, doesn't need a separate subscription, unless you use the view use feature, but that's a separate topic. This is where you set up your products and assign GTINs to each one. And the reason we hand you that control is that you know your products better than anyone. The system actually helps you avoid the classic mistakes like assigning the same number twice. It also validates your brand and your company, right? It's that credibility we talked about earlier. And that's more important than it sounds. There was a time when marketplaces would accept any GTIN you typed in, and that created a real problem with like listing hijacking and counterfeit products. Big no-no. Now with Data Hub and GDSN behind the scenes, marketplaces can confirm the number genuinely belongs to you. Now, once your products are set up, you generate the barcodes right there. They come out as a PNG or EPS files, so you can email them to your printer or your packaging designer or print them yourself. You can also export your product data to share externally, which makes life easier when you're working with a solution provider or a data pool or a retailer's onboarding team. And if you're in a regulated space, medical devices, for example, source data providers can push that information straight to the FDA rather than you managing another submission by hand. I also wanted to show these two screenshots as well. Now, we don't just hand you a pile of barcodes and wish you good luck. The value is that you attach real product data to those numbers. The size, the color, the pack, the description, whatever describes that specific variation. You do that once, and then when the GTIN gets generated and encoded into the barcode, that number carries a complete, accurate story about your product, which means the second the retailer comes along, or the third, and the marketplace after that, you're not just starting from a blank spreadsheet every single time. The work is already done and it's saved. These are a couple screenshots from Data Hub. So you can see what it actually looks like from the inside. It's not intimidating, don't worry. If you can fill out an online form, then you can do this. And on the right side here where it says your progress, it also walks you through each step as well. Most people set up their first product in under 10 minutes. So the fair question is, why not just track all of this in a spreadsheet? You already have one. It's free. It works. But here's what you may not know. When you send a retailer your barcode, a lot of them check it. Retailers, marketplaces, and distributors have API subscriptions that let them verify your number against the GS1 registry in the background. What they're confirming is two things: that this number is licensed to your company, and that's that GS1 company prefix, right? And that the license is currently active. Your spreadsheet can't do that. It's a record for you. It isn't proof to anybody else. And that's exactly the difference between a number you made up or bought secondhand and a number that's genuinely yours. Now, this is also honestly where the cheap barcodes, like that story falls apart. Those numbers may scan fine at first, but when a partner runs the verification and it comes back linked to somebody else's company or to nobody, and that conversation usually happens at the worst possible moment, right? When you're trying to onboard with a big retailer, and we definitely want to avoid that. So the registry isn't a red tape. It's the thing that makes your identity trustworthy to everyone downstream. Getting towards the end here. So far that's the substance. Now I'm going to bring it all together and tell you where it goes from here. So before, I called this barcode is just the beginning on purpose, because for most people in this room, the barcode is the reason you showed up today. A retailer perhaps asked for one, or a marketplace wouldn't let you list without one. But what you're really doing is laying the foundation for a supply chain that can handle growth. You can look at what opens up once that identity is in place: real-time inventory across every channel that you sell in, cleaner communication with your trading partners because you're all speaking the same language now, and systems that actually connect instead of needing a workaround. Now, on the consumer side, you're set up to answer the questions shoppers are always asking or increasingly asking in regulated categories to support safety and traceability when it genuinely matters. So all of this runs quietly in the background. You'll never think about most of it, but it's the difference between scaling smoothly and scaling painfully. And we're not going anywhere. GS1 US exists to serve, like I said before, brands, retailers, and supply chain partners. And that's the whole job, right? Our website has resources, tools, educational sessions. I will have a resource slide also with some direct links, so don't worry about that as well. And wow, yeah. So thank you all. Here's how you reach me. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to take any questions.